This is Lucy Bryan Malenke from the James Madison University Writing Center, and this is the 5th video in our group writing series. In it, you'll learn some strategies for revising and editing a group writing project. As any professor who assigns group writing projects will attest, revision and editing are essential to creating a high-quality project. Group writing assignments that haven't been revised and edited tend to have some or all of the following problems: confusing organization, lack of transitions between ideas, redundancies, missing information or gaps in content, inconsistent terminology, shifts in writing style or tone, and variations in formatting. Creating a cohesive, polished paper that sounds like it's been written by a single author is no simple task. That's where revision and editing come in. I'd like to take a moment to explain what I mean by revision and editing. In the James Madison University Writing Center, we encourage writers, both individuals and groups, to see revision and editing as two distinct phases in the writing process. Revision should focus on big picture issues, what we call higher order or global concerns. These are the problems that need to be solved before the paper can work. For example, if content is missing from the paper, or if some of the information it contains is misleading, those issues should be addressed in the revision phase. And once you've solved those big picture issues, you can then begin the editing process. This is where you address later order concerns, such as grammar errors or wordiness. It's not that these issues are less important than higher order concerns, it's just that it makes sense to tackle them later in the writing process. It's not practical, for example, to finesse transitions and fix typos in a paragraph that will ultimately be cut from the paper. Joanna Wolf, in her book Team Writing, A Guide to Working in Groups, suggests that groups should take different approaches to revising and editing. During the revision phase, groups should employ the feedback method, in which writers submit their draft to one or more group members, who then provide comments on global concerns and suggestions for revision. The original writers are then responsible for implementing those recommendations. After that, during the editing phase, a single editor should directly revise the text to resolve later order concerns and to ensure consistency in tone, language, and formatting. One thing you'll need to decide before you begin revising or editing your group writing project is how you'll keep track of different versions of the paper. Some applications, like Google Documents, allow multiple users to make changes and suggestions in real time. The problem, however, is that once content is deleted or changed, it's gone. If you're using Google Documents, you might want to create a procedure for saving copies of the draft in progress at critical points. On the other hand, if you share drafts via email or a file sharing service like Dropbox, you don't have to worry about accidentally losing content. However, this can lead to multiple versions of the draft existing in different places. It may be hard to know which draft is the most up-to-date, and assembling multiple drafts into a final product can be a challenging and time-consuming task. Whatever approach you choose, make sure to have clear policies and procedures that everyone in the group agrees to. So what are some things you comment on if you're responsible for providing feedback during the revision phase? I recommend reading through the entire draft before you write anything. Then you can consider this hierarchy of questions, adapted from John Bean's book, Engaging Ideas. First, you should evaluate whether the draft is following the assignment. Review the criteria on the assignment sheet and rubric. If your group submitted a proposal or planning document, take a look at that too. And if the draft does not follow the assignment, it should be your first priority to explain where it went off course. Here's a set of end comments that addresses a paper with this problem. Assuming the draft does follow the assignment, the next thing you should consider is how well the writing is fulfilling its purpose. Many academic texts are supposed to address a problem or a question. Others are supposed to defend a thesis or an argument. Or maybe you're looking at a section of a larger piece of writing that has a specific purpose, such as explaining the methods of an experiment well enough for someone else to replicate them. In your feedback and comments, you might choose to point out where the purpose first becomes clear, where the paper moves away from that purpose, or where competing purposes create confusion for you as a reader. Here are some sample end comments that address purpose. Next, you should reflect on the overall quality of the writer's ideas or argument. Which claims need more evidence to support them? Is it clear how the writer reached her conclusions? How might she add complexity or nuance to the ideas in the paper? Are there alternative viewpoints or perspectives that the writer should acknowledge and address? What details or examples should the writer add to develop her ideas? Make sure to note any place that doesn't make sense to you or where you have trouble following the writer's logic. And if possible, give concrete suggestions about how to improve those issues. Here are some sample marginal comments that address the writer's ideas or argument. Finally, you should consider the organization of the draft. A good place to start would be making a reverse outline of the draft. That is, making a list that briefly summarizes the main point of each paragraph or section. Consider whether this outline aligns with the assignment criteria or any outline your group created earlier in the writing process. Check to see if there are paragraphs that cover the same content and should be combined. Make sure that paragraphs that cover related content are next to each other and that each topic logically flows out of the one that precedes it. You might also look at the balance of information in the paper. Is too much or too little space dedicated to any given idea? Is anything missing from the draft? These are the kinds of sample marginal comments you might write when you're commenting on organization. And don't forget, as you're commenting, to note what the writer is doing well. That will help him decide what to keep and what to change as he revises his work. If you're in charge of editing your group's paper, you should read through it and make sure that no higher order concerns remain. If the content and overall organization seem strong, and if the paper follows the assignment, you can then address later order concerns. Consider reading through the paper and making changes several times, focusing on one or two of the following during each read-through. Analyze the transitions. Are there effective transitions within and between paragraphs? Does every paragraph have a topic sentence and a concluding sentence? Then think about language concerns. Are there ideas that could be stated more clearly or directly? Are words and terms used consistently throughout the paper? Consider concision. What ideas could be stated in fewer words? Are there sentences that could be cut or combined? Think about style. Is the style appropriate and consistent throughout the paper? Are there places where the language is too technical, too informal, too ornate, or choppy? Review grammar, punctuation, and spelling. Does the writer follow the rules of grammar regarding pronoun cases, subject-verb agreement, parallelism, verb tense, capitalization, and so forth? Are commas, semicolons, and apostrophes used appropriately? Are there any typos or misspelled words? Finally, take a look at formatting. Does the paper follow formatting guidelines regarding margins, page numbers, headers and headings, and spacing? Are citations formatted consistently and correctly? Is the font the same size, color, and style throughout? Taking the time to resolve these issues will help to eliminate many of the inconsistencies that can occur when a paper is written by multiple authors. It will also enhance the professionalism and effectiveness of your group writing project. Before we wrap up, I want to point out that there are some common problems that can occur during the revision and editing processes. For example, a writer may overlook, ignore, or misunderstand feedback provided by a teammate. And an editor might make changes to a text that inadvertently alter meaning, compromise clarity, or introduce errors. That's why it's important for writers and editors to review each other's work and to maintain open lines of communication. A writer may need to explain why she chose to reject a suggestion, or why an editor's change is problematic. And an editor may need to persuade the writer of the importance of a certain revision. In the case of a disagreement, it may be necessary to involve the project manager, the group, or even the instructor in decision-making. Make sure to budget time for this back and forth into your project schedule. Thanks, and I hope you feel more prepared to engage in revision and editing for your group writing project. Also, know that the University Writing Center would love to work with you and your group on your project. Please feel free to visit us for a brainstorming, revising, or proofreading session. It's best if everyone who has contributed to the paper can be present, but individuals are also welcome to visit us to review sections that they've written independently or to get help responding to feedback. Good luck with your group writing project.